Life seldom unravels gently, it crashes open. A relationship that once felt indestructible dissolves overnight. Years of effort invested in work suddenly taste bitter. A single glance in the mirror reveals a stranger staring back. Every anchor you trusted slips loose, leaving you suspended in uncertainty. Carl Jung gave this collapse a name, the dark night of the soul. Not a poetic metaphor, but a description of psychological upheaval. For him, the chaos was never random. He saw it as a painful test the psyche and forces when illusions grow too heavy to carry. Through the wreckage, truth struggles to surface. Most people caught here assume they are damaged beyond repair. I'm losing my mind. Something inside me has snapped. Carl Jung's view was different. He argued that what feels like breakdown is actually breakthrough. That shift in framing transforms despair into process. Silence replaces answers. Masks that once earned approval fall apart. Roles you performed faithfully no longer hold weight. Each layer stripped away exposes rawness that terrifies. The impulse is to run back, rebuild the crumbling structure, force routines to continue as if nothing changed. Resistance, however, multiplies suffering. Avoidance makes the night longer, not shorter. Seen differently, collapse is mercy disguised as cruelty. Everything false disintegrates so that authenticity can breathe. The floor breaking beneath you is not punishment, it is demolition of foundations too weak for the self you're becoming. Survival begins with honesty. Name what no longer fits, even if it leaves you shaking. Document the identities that died quietly. Notice the silence not as emptiness, but as invitation. Shift the question from "Why is this happening?" to "What truth is being uncovered here?" Carl Jung reminded his students that individuation, the process of becoming whole, demands this stripping. The persona, that carefully crafted mask, cannot withstand the night. Its collapse allows the deeper self to breathe for the first time. Pain remains, but meaning alters its flavor. The wreckage becomes a threshold. The end begins to resemble a beginning. Recognizing this shift sets the stage for the journey through the 5 signs of the dark night. Each one signals not failure, but movement deeper into transformation. And at the end of the path waits a survival blueprint, practices designed to carry you until dawn breaks. The first sign now waits in front of you, the complete collapse of certainty. The first sign of the dark night of the soul is merciless. Certainty collapses. Beliefs that once shaped your direction dissolved without warning. Jobs pursued for approval lose all meaning in a single moment. Dreams that once lit your path turn colorless. Even identity itself feels unstable, as though the mask you wore has fallen away. Carl Jung explained this implosion as a necessary stage of individuation. According to his view, the psyche cannot carry illusions indefinitely. Eventually, the weight of deception breaks through. Like an old structure weakened by cracks, identity begins to crumble. No amount of effort can hold together walls already hollow inside. During this stage, inherited expectations reveal their weakness. Paths chosen to please others feel suffocating. Relationships maintained out of fear lose their grip. Roles performed for safety collapse under their own emptiness. Behind all this collapse, the soul is demanding truth. Confusion dominates the mind when certainty dies. Questions arrive without answers. Sleep no longer refreshes because even dreams echo the same uncertainty. Morning light exposes illusions instead of restoring hope. Each step forward feels like walking across shifting sand. Carl Jung insisted that collapse is not failure, but preparation. Demolition clears the field before authentic growth can begin. False structures vanish so that the real self can emerge. The painful test ensures that what survives has strength. What looks like betrayal is the first glimpse of truth. Practical approaches help when certainty is gone. Writing down expired beliefs makes them visible. Marking habits that feel lifeless identifies what no longer serves. Journaling turns shapeless emotions into clear words. Each record becomes proof that transformation is already moving. Ritual creates rhythm in days that feel unstable. Lighting a candle steadies long evenings. Preparing meals with care reconnects you to the body. Walking slowly in silence restores presence. Simple practices act like scaffolding while the old house falls. Perspective reframes the experience. Asking, "Why is this happening to me?" deepens despair. Reframing into "what truth is trying to surface" opens meaning. Language becomes medicine, reshaping how suffering is carried. Words chosen with care give direction to the storm. Carl Jung warned that rushing back to old identities multiplies pain. Returning to expired roles delays healing. Certainty that no longer fits cannot be revived. Authenticity requires surrendering what has died. Through loss, possibility emerges. Eventually, the collapse makes space for the next sign. Silence begins to spread where noise once lived. Isolation takes shape, stretching across every room. Conversations dry up, and connection fades into distance. That desert of absence becomes the second stage of the dark night of the soul. After certainty has collapsed, another sign emerges quietly: isolation. Conversations fade until words feel scarce. Friends who once checked in become distant. Crowded places feel noisy, yet strangely empty. Loneliness settles in the body, heavier than stone. Carl Jung described this withdrawal not as rejection, but as initiation. For him, solitude was the psyche pulling inward when outer supports fell away. Instead of punishment, silence functions as a furnace where transformation begins. With distractions gone, the soul finally makes itself heard. Through stillness, the inner voice gains clarity. During this stage, emptiness feels unbearable. Phones remain silent, no matter how often they're checked. Social events intensify the sense of exile. Every exchange seems hollow, deepening the ache. Hours stretch endlessly without anyone to witness your struggle. Yet Carl Jung believed this desert carried purpose. Without noise, hidden material rises to the surface. Dreams sharpen and reveal archetypal images. Suppressed emotions demand attention. Often, the shadow is the first to appear when silence deepens. Meeting the shadow in solitude is frightening. Repressed anger ignites like smoke from hidden fire. Forgotten envy flickers unexpectedly. Shame crawls from the corners of memory. Every fragment, once denied, insists on recognition. Avoiding these figures only strengthen their hold. Running from the shadow repeats old mistakes. Denying flaws projects them onto others. Escaping into distraction extends the painful test. Acknowledgement, however, begins the healing process. Practical practices help endure this sign. Journaling transforms dread into visible words. Breathing with awareness steadies the nervous system. Walking outdoors without headphones restores contact with the present. Simple acts reclaim a sense of agency. Symbols also support survival. Lighting a small flame creates continuity in darkness. Keeping a stone nearby anchors memory of nature. Sketching dream images externalizes what the psyche cannot yet explain. These symbolic gestures bridge conscious and unconscious. Carl Jung emphasized that individuation requires retreat. Exile opens space for authenticity. Community will return, but solitude must teach first. This pattern appears in myths, scriptures, and biographies alike. Transformation rarely arrives without silence. If you are in this stage, remember the lineage you join. Prophets endured deserts before their revelations. Artists withdrew before creating masterpieces. Thinkers wrestled with solitude before shaping ideas. Your isolation echoes their path. It is not meaningless. When silence has done its work, the third sign begins. The shadow moves forward without disguise. Hidden material takes center stage. Unacknowledged desires demand to be seen. When silence deepens, something hidden begins to rise. Images long buried push into awareness. Old anger resurfaces, sharp and unsettling. Memories thought forgotten return in vivid flashes. Flaws despised in others appear in your own reflection. Carl Jung named this eruption the shadow. He described it as the container of everything rejected, fears, impulses, and wounds pushed into the dark. Daily routines normally keep it hidden, but in the dark night of the soul, isolation strips away those defenses. What was once buried now stands in the open. Encountering the shadow feels terrifying. Questions about goodness invade your thoughts. Shame whispers that you are corrupted beyond repair. Despair convinces the night will never end. The psyche shakes under the weight of its own contents. Yet Carl Jung insisted this was not punishment, but initiation. Integration demands acknowledgement. Anger, when faced, can transform into courage. Envy reveals the unlived life you secretly crave. Even despair, once accepted, opens compassion toward others. Ignoring the shadow only repeats the cycle. Patterns reappear in every relationship. Failures wear different masks but feel the same. Achievements lose satisfaction quickly. The darkness you avoid takes more control each time. Practical strategies help during this stage. Writing a list of traits you criticize in others exposes hidden mirrors. Recording dreams captures archetypal figures that surface at night. Sketching monsters externalizes them into a form you can confront. Sharing pieces of your struggle with someone you trust prevents isolation from turning toxic. Carl Jung taught that integration reduces vitality. Admitting flaws reduces their power. Naming impulses softens their grip. Accepting imperfections creates compassion. Energy once wasted on denial becomes fuel for growth. The survival blueprint applies here directly. Keep track of recurring fears instead of pushing them down. Sit with discomfort rather than numbing it. Allow symbols to carry meaning when logic fails. Treat every fragment of the shadow as a messenger, not an enemy. The painful test of this sign breaks many people. Some cling desperately to their old persona. Others project blame outward to avoid responsibility. A few collapse under shame. Only those who endure discover integration slowly unfolding. Transformation begins quietly. Moments of clarity pierce the despair. Creativity sparks where repression once suffocated. Compassion deepens as you realize others fight similar battles. Wholeness emerges piece by piece. Once the shadow has been faced, another sign follows. The persona that once defined you loses strength. Masks no longer hold. The identity you clung to begins to dissolve. That collapse announces the fourth sign, the death of the old self. After the shadow steps into view, something deeper unravels. Ambitions that once gave direction lose all power. Achievements once celebrated feel strangely hollow. Friendships tied to an old identity begin to fade. The image of who you thought you were collapses in front of you. Carl Jung described this stage as the death of the persona. For him, the persona functioned as a mask, an outfit stitched together from expectation and survival. During the dark night of the soul, that mask disintegrates. No attempt can patch what no longer fits. What falls away is not your essence, but the false roles covering it. Fear dominates this sign. Questions about belonging surface immediately. Mornings arrive without purpose. Mirrors show a stranger you do not recognize. Every reference point that once grounded you vanishes. Yet Carl Jung explained that this unraveling is essential. False identities must die before authenticity can rise. The painful test of this collapse makes renewal possible. Clearing counterfeit layers allows the soul to breathe. Transformation hides inside this apparent destruction. Grief naturally follows. Letters written to past versions of yourself provide release. Acknowledging what those roles once gave helps ease bitterness. Thanking the old self honors its protective purpose. Ritualizing farewell makes the transition sacred rather than chaotic. Practical anchors soften the emptiness. Small routines bring rhythm back to fractured days. Cooking simple meals reconnect you to the present. Body care grounds awareness when thoughts drift. Creative outlets offer glimpses of the new self forming. Perspective determines survival. Treating this death as failure leads to despair. Recognizing it as transformation brings orientation. Symbols help: candles, plants, stones, water. Each object reminds you that endings make space for beginnings. Carl Jung believed individuation could not happen without this stage. The persona must die so the deeper psyche can live. Ego resists, but surrender becomes inevitable. Authenticity only appears after illusions fall. Through loss, life is remade. The survival blueprint urges patience here. Allow emptiness to teach instead of rushing to fill it. Resist the urge to claim a new identity too quickly. Hold uncertainty without forcing answers. Trust that something larger than the old self is being born. Eventually, the desert begins to crack open. Small sparks of renewal shine through the rubble. Moments of clarity pierce the despair. Unexpected joy arrives in fleeting encounters. These flickers mark the fifth sign, glimpses of renewal. After the old self has died, something fragile stirs in the dark. Moments of quiet peace break through despair like thin rays of light. Dreams shift from chaos to symbols of renewal, rivers flowing, doors opening, trees budding. Laughter slips out unexpectedly after weeks of silence. Even small gestures of kindness feel charged with deeper meaning. Carl Jung described these moments as signs of the psyche reorganizing. The dark night of the soul is not endless. Within the most painful test, seeds of transformation start to grow. They appear fragile, almost unbelievable, yet they reveal that the journey is turning. Hope returns, not as fantasy, but as evidence of change. Skepticism often meets these sparks. Doubt insists the relief is temporary. Suspicion whispers that hope is only another illusion. Still, Carl Jung urged trust in these glimpses. They mark the beginning of rebirth. Symbols become central in this phase. Dreams offer images of light piercing clouds. Visions of water cleansing ruined ground arrive unbidden. Even a simple sunrise feels like a personal message. The unconscious speaks in pictures, carrying truths words cannot hold. Practical steps protect these glimpses. Write down every moment of clarity, no matter how brief. Keep a record of sparks so you can return to them during darker hours. Notice sensations of renewal in the body, warmth in the chest, calm in the breath. Treat these experiences as anchors, not accidents. Gratitude strengthens their presence. Naming one detail each day, sun on skin, music in silence, food that comforts, builds stability. Gratitude here is not performance, it's calibration. Each acknowledgement keeps the flame alive when winds of despair return. Small recognitions add up to resilience. Carl Jung emphasized that renewal emerges gradually. Like dawn, light creeps across the horizon before the sun fully rises. Patience prevents disappointment when progress feels slow. Clarity develops in fragments, but fragments are proof the night is ending. Transformation is steady even when subtle. The survival blueprint is ready to be applied fully at this stage. Daily rituals nurture fragile growth. Symbols continue guiding the unconscious. Community supports the fragile new self. Practices combine to carry you beyond the night. Ultimately, glimpses of renewal confirm that the dark night of the soul has a purpose. The silence taught listening. The shadow revealed hidden strength. The death of the old self cleared the way for authenticity. Now renewal proves that none of the struggle was wasted. This fifth sign leads naturally into the closing chapter. Recognition alone is not enough. Survival requires consistent practice. Endurance depends on structure. The blueprint now becomes essential, the set of tools to carry you until dawn fully breaks. Recognizing the 5 signs of the dark night of the soul explains the journey, but survival demands practice. Knowledge steadies the mind, yet only daily actions carry you through the night. Carl Jung never promised escape from suffering. Instead, he pointed toward habits that transform chaos into process. This is the survival blueprint. Writing is the first anchor. Pages absorb what the heart cannot hold in silence. List the illusions that collapsed. Describe the isolation that left you raw. Record the shadows that haunted your nights. Capturing them on paper prevents the storm from staying shapeless. Ritual builds rhythm when meaning disappears. Lighting a candle signals continuity across dark evenings. Cooking with care grounds attention in the body. Walking slowly without distraction restores presence. Consistency in small acts creates stability while larger structures fall. Caring for the body is crucial. Stretching releases grief stored in muscles. Movement shakes loose despair lodged in the chest. Breathing deeply resets the nervous system. Sweat proves that life still pulses inside you. Symbols carry what language cannot. Objects like stones, rivers, and flames bypass logic. Placed within reach, they speak directly to the unconscious. Dreams also provide guidance, filled with archetypal images. Drawing them externalizes the unseen into daylight. Community matters once solitude has taught its lesson. Speaking pain aloud reduces shame. Listening to others reveal patterns you share. Witnesses reflect strength you cannot yet see. Connection turns exile into fellowship. Patience is non-negotiable. Seasons shift slowly, and so does the psyche. Forcing clarity only deepens wounds. Allowing cycles to unfold protects fragile growth. Trusting time keeps you aligned with reality instead of fantasy. Perspective reshapes endurance. Repeating the question, "When will this end?" drains hope. Replacing it with, "Who am I becoming through this?" restores orientation. Words frame the experience, and framing changes survival. Language itself becomes medicine. Carl Jung emphasized that individuation unfolds gradually. Integration develops piece by piece. Clarity arrives in fragments before it becomes wholeness. Every practice in the blueprint honors the soul's demand for authenticity. No gesture is wasted, no step too small. The survival blueprint is not escape. It does not erase grief. It does not cancel despair. What it provides is scaffolding strong enough to carry you until dawn. Through these practices, the painful test becomes passage.
Ultimately, light always follows. The night never had the final word. Transformation was hidden in collapse all along. You were never breaking down. You were breaking through. That realization marks the end of the dark night of the soul and the beginning of a whole life.